Hi and welcome to another Cook's Tour. Today we're trying something a little bit different for us. We're going to cook a recipe that we have never actually eaten before, but we like the look of it and we're going to give it a go. So it'll be our first time with this particular one. Another little problem with this recipe is that it says to use pork mince and we don't have any. We do have 2 pork chops, and so what we're going to do with these is they're going to get done up in our little hand blender. And since I have the blender out, I will do the other ingredients in there too, which will be the onion, the garlic and the red and green peppers. I also have some spices. I've got some coriander, some cumin and some chili. And these are about half a teaspoon each. The recipe says to use 1/8 of a teaspoon, but I like spicy food. I've also put some salt and pepper in, which, you know, seasoning as they call it. I've got a tin of chopped tomatoes and I've got some tomato puree, and I will be adding some vegetable stock just made from a vegetable stock cube. And that's all the bits and bobs. So job number 1 is to convert pork chops into pork mince. So I'm just chopping these reasonably coarsely so that when they go into the blender it has an easier time. If I just dropped the pork chop in, it wouldn't work. If you've got a big electric blender in your kitchen, now maybe you're in a different ball game to me, but I've got a hand blender, so I've got to just work with it. And in goes my pork. I apologise for the noise you might hear. There's a bit of a gale blowing outside today, and we just have to put up with that. So if you see the cooker moving, it's just the cooker staying still, it's everything else that's moving, but that's life of being in a boat. Here it goes. Bit of resistance there, I'm telling you. So this little hand blender, because we don't have a huge amount of electric power, this is the sort of thing that we use. And so far it has always worked very well. I think, to be fair, it works better with vegetables than it does with meats, but hey ho, let's give it a go. Let's see where we are with this. Doesn't look too bad. It's a bit of a coarse mince, but hey ho. So I'm going to just coarsely chop the vegetables and then they can go into the blender. So I've got the onions in and I've got plenty more room, so I might as well put the pepper in as well. So I fancy using green pepper. So I'm taking a couple of sides off this green and I will just give them a quick run through it like that. In they go. I've been advised by the camera staff that a bit of red would be a good idea. I think that's full enough for my little choppy thing. So in here I've got onions, garlic, a fair bit, about 2/3 of a green pepper and 1/3 of a red pepper. So I guess you could say there's 1 pepper in there. And as you can see, choppy is much happier with vegetables. Oh, and I think we can say that looks the piece. Finely chopped peppers, onions, garlic. Right, so I've got my basic ingredients chopped up. I've got my spices, I've got my tin of tomatoes, and I've got my tomato puree, and I will be adding about 300 ml of vegetable stock. So let's get on with it. Right, so I'm putting in about a tablespoon of oil, and we just let that heat. Then in will go the onions, the spices, get them all mixed together. Then the pork will go in. I've heard people say you should brown the pork, but I don't see how you can brown mince, so that seems a bit of a strange idea to me. So I'll be putting in the spices so that they go into the oil and they mix with the vegetables and give a nice rounded flavour that hopefully goes through the whole dish. Right, in we go. I want to get the spices into the oil as well, because a lot of spices are oil based, and the oil helps bring their flavour out. So I'm just putting the whole lot in and I'll mix it all in together. I need about 2 tablespoons of tomato puree. I need 1. This is my tablespoon measure. There's 2. And now I'm going to mix in my pork and get it all mixed in with the Get it all mixed in with the vegetables. What you don't want is big lumps of pork sticking together. So give this a good breaking up like I'm doing here. And then in goes my tin of tomatoes. These are chopped tomatoes, so I don't have to chop them up. Very handy. And then I need about 300ml, 2 to 300ml of vegetable stock. It's just an ordinary vegetable stock cube, there's nothing spectacular about it. It is, being this boat being what it is, a gluten-free stock cube, because that's how we roll on Salty Lass. So I'm stirring it all together, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let it heat up and come to the simmer. And when it's simmering and the rest, you cook it for about 30 to 40 minutes, simmering it. I'll be putting it in my slow cooker, but if you don't have a slow cooker, just leave it on the hob. Leave the gas turned down or the electric turned down just so it simmers for 30 to 40 minutes. You need time for the flavours to come out. Right, well, just been in the storeroom and I've got some flour, some corn flour, cornstarch if you're American, to thicken this with. Although it's a soup, I don't like my soups too runny, I like to thicken them a little bit, and a lot of soups are thickened with flour. So I'm going to put about a heaped spoon of corn flour in, and I'm just going to stir it until I get the thickness I want. And then I'm just going to leave this to simmer for 40 minutes. Let's get some water into that. Stir. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, it's just simmering nicely, look at that. I think that'll do actually. Right, this is now simmering nicely, so let it simmer for 30 or 40 minutes. In my case, it can do it simmering inside my thermal cooker. And we'll see what we have for lunch in about half an hour. I've been caught behind the scenes with all the production stuff around me. Right, so like I say, I've got to give this a go, and very peppery, very red peppery, green peppery. I think it's very pleasant. I think you're going to enjoy this.